This is Inside Obstacle News with your host Dirty Getty, and this evening we'll be talking to Margaret Schlachter. So, before we get started, I just want to say Happy New Year, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. One of the first things I wanted to ask is just tell me a little bit about yourself and your athletic background.
Well, in college I played 2 Division III varsity sports. I was an alpine ski racer and I was a lacrosse goalie. But up until 2010, I had just been, for the last 5-7 years-ish, been a ski coach and an alpine ski coach and lacrosse coach. So I had kind of put my own athletic endeavors aside and had just focused on coaching the next generation.
So, why obstacle racing? Like, what got you started in that?
I'd say about Facebook. Spartan Race started in Vermont, and I was living in Killington at the time, and one of my friends had liked them on Facebook. She didn't want to go do the race, but she just liked that they were giving money to one of the hospitals in the area, so she liked them. Through that, I Google searched, and, as we all do, and found this race, and said, I haven't done a race in a long time, and well, it was only supposed to be 2 miles, and I said I can do 2
Yeah, right.
walk 2 miles. If I can't run 2 miles, I can walk 2 miles. And there's obstacles, so then you don't have to run the whole thing straight, so
Right.
you can take a break. That was my initial idea, is that the obstacles were going to be the breaks from the running. So I went to the race. I did it. It was a lot of fun, and then it kind of steamrolled into probably half a dozen races the first year, and then half a dozen races, maybe a dozen races the second year, and then this past year was my 3rd year racing, and I don't know, it was like 20 races this year. I don't know, there's too many races to count almost this year.
So, obviously you got the bug pretty quick, but at what point did you feel that you could be really competitive with some of the other women?
I think that I didn't know I could be competitive for a while. The first year I wasn't competitive at all. I was maybe finishing in the top 25% in the races, which, if you equate that out to number-wise, that's finishing 150th out of the couple thousand or whatever that were there. So I wasn't breaking any records, anything like that.
Welcome to my entire triathlon career.
In 2011, I had seen, and now it's the Tough Mudder banner flew over the Spartan Race in Amesbury the first year. So that's how I found out about Tough Mudder. I did Tough Mudder in Vermont that year, and then saw, when I finished, I was the 3rd woman to finish in the Sunday, that first heat, and I was within the top 20 some odd guys. I know it's not a race, it's a challenge, it's whatever it is, but still, I finished, and they go, you just made it to World's Toughest Mudder. I'm like, what
Awesome.
is that?
Yeah.
So I found out that it was a 24-hour race, and I knew from years of coaching, most people can make their way through a 5K. Most people can make their way through a Tough Mudder. It might take you 7 hours or 8 hours. Not everybody's packed, but you can get through it. And I knew, though, for a 24-hour race, you can't fake that.
Right.
So I started to seriously train again for the first time in years, and it was painful at first, and there was a lot of walking in the woods because I wasn't even able to run a whole lot or very fast. So it wasn't really, so I didn't know that I was really going to be competitive. I did some races. I was doing pretty well. I think the tipping point of the whole thing was really the Vermont Beast in 2011.
Okay.
That was, I came in 3rd in that race, and it was a big podium finish. And then 7 days later, I did a Warrior Dash and finished 2nd in my age group and 6th overall out of, I think it was 5,000 women for the day. So,
That's pretty good.
all of a sudden it was wow, maybe I can really kind of seriously do this. And then fast forward to this season, and it's just sort of steamrolled, and I think my worst finish this past season, I think, was a 13th place or so. But otherwise, it was a lot of 1st, 2nds, and 4ths, 5ths, that sort of thing.
That's awesome. Now, what's your best finish, in the overall for women?
My best finish that I've done, I've finished 2nd for women a handful of times this year. If you include me in with the men, I've finished, I think I might have one top 20 among the men as well.
Awesome.
But I'm not sure.
That's awesome.
I have to go all the numbers.
So how did you get started with your blog? Was it the blog first and then you started doing the OCR, or did you start racing and then realize, hey, I could write about this?
Well, it all sort of stems out of that Tough Mudder experience. I knew that when I qualified for World's Toughest Mudder that I needed something to hold myself accountable. I'd always had coaches growing up. I'd always had, training plans just handed to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I have no coach. I have no training plan. I'm making this up as I go. I've got to hold myself accountable. So I was like, well, I'll start this blog. I would post on Facebook in the morning what I was going to do. And then the blog, if you go back and read the early ones, it's like, today I ran 2 miles. Here's the GPS readout. It's more obvious to what it is now, but that's all it was. It was basically an online training journal for me that held myself accountable. And then it was crazy. First I think it was just my mom that read it, and then as it sort of people started to latch onto it, and they wanted to see what I was doing, and they latched onto the story of like this whole build up and whatnot, and so it just sort of kept growing. And then as it's where it is now, it's a little bit more than just about today I ran. About the whole experience of the journey than just about statistics and numbers.
That's awesome. So how hard was it making that kind of final leap to doing the blog and the obstacle racing full time? Like when you decided, hey, I'm quitting my regular job and all that.
It's definitely a huge leap of faith. It was I was working 8 to 10 plus hours a day at my job, and then I was going home and working 5 or 6 hours on the blog, and then at that point it was a full website, and at that point we were selling merchandise, and so I was just getting torn into 2 worlds. And I'm 29 years old, and I can always go back to working in education. I worked in education for almost 7 or 8 years, so I can go back to that anytime I want to. But it's not very often that you have a chance to sort of jump into something and be part of something that's new and exciting and big. So kind of made that decision, and I told my parents around July 4th. On the 4th of July, I was with them, and I said, I'm going to do this, and they were really supportive, and they said that we figured it was going to come at some point. And so that was sort of when it all happened.
Now, I saw in your education background that you were you like minoring in entrepreneurship, or was that your major?
I have a dual concentration. I went to a school that's just a business school for my undergraduate, and so I have a dual concentration in strategic management and entrepreneurship. So it's kind of like if you had majors, it'd be like a double major.
And do you feel like that's really helped you on the business side of things? Because like in the holiday special, if you listen to Matt's podcast recently, he had Hobie on there, and Hobie was saying how he has a hard time making racing his life because he's just not a businessman and stuff like that. Do you feel like that has really helped you? And how do you make that all happen?
I think that business school in general helped me with life. Even when I worked in a private boarding school, I felt like I was using pieces of my education every day. And now it's been interesting because now I'm able to actually apply some of the pieces that I learned in a different way. So I think everything we do in life leads us to where we, is one more piece of the puzzle. So I definitely think that having that foundation has helped me, in growing a business.
So I was talking just briefly about Hobie, and in that same podcast, he kind of came out against one of your sponsors, Gaspari, and kind of criticized them. What would you say to people, in their defense?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing anytime you're taking any sort of a supplement, I've been really happy with Gaspari. They've been a great company to me, and they've actually come out with a lot of products since I've been with them that are more specifically related for the functional fitness athlete, for your CrossFitter, for your obstacle course racer, and they're even looking to get more into more endurance products as well. So moving away from they've been primarily more of a bodybuilding type company.
Okay.
And I think that being kind of, I get to see behind the scenes what happens, and get on some phone calls, and these guys, they develop and test products for well over a year before they even hit the market, and I use the products every day. I'm definitely a big advocate for them. I had Glycofuge in my bottle that I was carrying around this indoor marathon that I ran today. I have Amino-Last. I drink it as a recovery drink, and I think the biggest thing is when you have a supplement that you use, whatever it might be, it's what works for you. And Gaspar works really well for me. It might not work well for somebody else, but I've been really happy with it, and I've had some great results this year. So, it's all worked for me. So I've been really happy with it, and I know that Hobie's really happy with his wheatgrass drink that he makes, and has that a couple of times a day. And I think whatever works best for you, and that's what you should use.
I think that's great advice. And you mentioned even using the products like on race day and during this race. Tell me a little bit about that race that you did today.
I did a race that might be one of the sillier races that I've ever done, and this coming from someone who's done World Toughest Mudder, Death Race, Ultra Beast, lots of other silly races. It was in the Olympic Oval here in Utah, the speed skating rink.
Oh, wow.
And outside of the speed skating rink, there is a running track that is 442 meters long.
That's strange distance.
Yeah. I ran 97 laps this morning to start my year, which is just over a marathon, and there were no left turns. It was all right turns.
So how are your shins feeling after that?
Shins feel okay. My right hip right now is pretty sore from just turning to the right the whole day. It was a 5-hour race, and got to run that, and I just saw the results right before we started chatting, and ended up sixth, the sixth for women out of over 100 women. So
awesome. And that's, I'm sure, like a lot of them are more like road racers and things like that.
Oh yeah, I had conversations with people that had run. There was a guy there who'd run over 100 marathons, somebody else who'd run over 25 marathons and half marathons, and so I'm there, and I'm like, I race obstacle races. I run on dirt.
Had they heard of that? Like, was anybody else, had anybody else done any other things like OCR at all, or Tough Mudder?
It was really funny, and I was totally out of context. As I'm running around the track, some guy pulls his earphone out, and he turns to me and he says, "Are you Margaret?" Like, yeah. And he's, "From Dirt in Your Skirt, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, I've watched you on YouTube." He's never done Spartan race. He's never done any sort of OCR race. He's never done anything. But he said he saw, I believe, my death race video. And then he had a bunch of questions about the death race. So we proceeded to talk about the death race for a couple laps.
Awesome. Now, I was looking at your 2013 calendar on your Dirt in Your Skirt website, and it looked pretty dominated by Spartan. Are you doing any other races like Superhero Scramble, World's Toughest Mudder, anything like that?
Currently, I'm not doing any Superhero Scrambles. Now, living on the West, those are all based in the East. So it's, I have to pick and choose where I'm going. I probably am going to end up doing the Iron Warrior Dash.
Okay.
That one it intrigues me.
Yeah. I'm curious about that one.
Yeah. So World's Toughest Mudder, right now it's not on the calendar.
Okay.
My biggest really long distance races is I'm doing the Fuego y Agua survival run. I'm slated right now to do the Copper Canyons 50 miler, but that's really close to Fuego, so that might have to get pulled off the schedule. And then in August, I'm sort of capping off this year with it's a 7-day, 250-kilometer stage race called Racing the Planet. That'll be in Iceland. So,
awesome.
So doing, other than, in the obstacle racing world, obviously, Spartan has the point series, so you're kind of chasing those point series, and, you've got to make sure you get your your races in and all that sort of thing for that series. I know Superhero now has a whole nother series, but right now I think you can only do one series. I think it'd be awfully hard to do, and I'm sure there are people that are going to do both. But for the sake of staying healthy and not overloading yourself, that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's not to say a few things won't change. Things always are a little bit fluid and in motion.
Now go back to the Fuego y Agua race really quick, the survival run. How are you training for that? Like, it sounded on the website like totally ridiculous, and you will not finish, like was their tagline, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky enough that I do actually know the race director. We've done a few things together in the past, and he kind of continually talked me into going. It was a race I wasn't going to go do. I actually was going to do a 55K, and I think it was in Moab that day, which is a lot closer to home, obviously, than an island in Nicaragua, just going a couple hours south in Utah. But I got talked into it, so I'm pretty much doing the same training that I was doing before. Obviously, I just went out and ran a marathon this morning. It's a lot of running, a lot of trail running through snow right now here up in the mountains. And then, I started doing CrossFit when I moved out here, so continue to do CrossFit to build the strength. Otherwise, it's an 18-hour race. It has a start, it has a finish, and just ready. I probably do some swimming beforehand because I've heard there's going to be some swimming involved, and but I've always been pretty proficient at swimming, so.
Have you ever done just like on a side note, have you ever done a triathlon?
Not yet. I have crewed for a triathlon. The running part was what always got me in a triathlon, and now I run, so I really have no reason, but I haven't been on a bike in years, so now I have to get back on a bike to do that. But I do have a friend that I told that's a race director that I would do. He runs a double and a triple Ironman. I said I would do a single at his race, and he was like, I'm going to hold you to it. And so it looks like I might be doing that in 2014, but I don't know.
Cool.
We'll see. We'll see how this year goes. I can't start planning 2014 yet.
Yeah. No. With the Spartan series and everything, it sounds like you're going to be pretty, pretty busy. Now, with Spartan series and some of what they're doing in Australia, would you, kind of get behind like a national obstacle racing league, kind of towards pushing towards an Olympic bid in the far future?
Yeah, I think the next step that we're going to see is we're going to end up having a governing body for the entire sport. As you see, there's all these little races that are sort of popping up, and I see the governing body as more than a national point series, really a regulatory, to make sure that races are safe.
Yeah.
To make sure that obstacles are built safely. They can be the lamest or the coolest obstacle in the world. It doesn't, as long as they're safe,
Yeah.
There are races that I've listened to Matt B. Davis's podcast and heard some. It sounds almost like horror stories on there, and we just want to I think that we, as the people that were in the sport as it began, want to make sure that sort of the copycats that pop up are holding quality events so that it better promotes the whole sport as a whole. So I think that we'll have a governing body. With a governing body, we'll probably end up getting a nationalized ranking system. Obviously, my background was from skiing and lacrosse, and both of them have governing bodies, and skiing has an even more convoluted point system than that makes Spartans and superheroes look really easy.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to come. I think it's going to come. If it's an Olympic sport, we'll have to see where it continues to go and to grow. But there's no... I see it perfectly fit into that ESPN, NBC, Saturday, Sunday sports, where it's like wedged in between like the X Games and, something else. But it sort of fits that. It's a true sport, and yet it still fits that edginess.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. I want to just jump off on another quick tangent. We all talk about the big three, like, the Tough Mudder, Spartan Race, Warrior Dash, and there's obviously a couple coming up there, but I was just recently on the website for Dirty Girl, and I could not believe how many events they have. It looks like, if you look at their map of the United States, it's like just this blanket of pink. Like, I mean, have you done one of those, or have you heard anything about them? Like, why aren't they ever mentioned if they're this big?
Yeah, I have heard of them. I haven't done one of them. I did try to contact them and haven't actually heard, kind of didn't really hear back from them, but, whatever. Everybody's super busy.
Yeah.
But I've heard that their obstacles are not as challenging as some of the other races, but I have a hard time, taking in what everybody else says. I really think you have to go and test it out. My second year of racing, I only did 2 Spartans that year, but I did every other race series I could find. I was like, I've done a Rugged Maniac. I did the precursor to Ruckus. I've done, I don't know. I tried all of them I could find that were available then. Now new ones have popped up and that sort of thing, but at that time I kind of was trying them all, and I think that I like the racing aspect, and that's what I've learned about myself through this. Is I really like to race. I like a start, I like a finish, I like to race, and so that's what sort of kept me drawn towards Spartan. And I think that superhero has something going here, and I know Warrior Dash has always been a race. It's been more of I think it's really the entry level race, but it's still a race, and World's Toughest Mudder is definitely a race.
So, what kind of shoe do you like to race in, and why?
Yeah, I tried a couple shoes. I actually wrote a blog post on my progression of shoes. From a Salomon Gore-Tex, my first race, which I learned Gore-Tex is really great at repelling water out. It's also great at keeping water trapped in.
Yeah.
And I think mine probably weighed 5 pounds each by the end of a race. Then I went to the extreme. I did the 5 fingers, and then I did the Merrill trail gloves. Then I did the I've tried more shoes. I have shoes in my closet that I've worn not many times, but I've really settled on the Innovates. The Cross Talon 180s are really, they're the red shoe that you see at the starting line that a lot of people have. That one to me has been the best shoe, that it drains the best and it's got the best traction. The nubs underneath, for some they think it's too much, but for me I like that extra grip, and I've never had a problem getting out of a muddy pit. So that's my favorite shoe. For a really longer distance thing, I'll pop into an Innovate, the 245, the Trail Rock, which is the new shoe.
I just got those for Christmas.
So those are pretty much my 2 race shoes, and I'll run in the Trail Rocks is what I run regular trail races in, that I do as well.
Awesome. And okay, so you're obviously, really healthy and got your nutrition nailed down. What would you say is your favorite cheat food?
Oh, I love pizza.
Pizza?
It's no joke. I love pizza. I will eat pizza before a race. I love pizza. We try to eat pretty clean in our house. We try to be pretty healthy here. But I think that you also need to eat a little bit about what your body's craving. So we'll go out and get a burger or something like that, and I'm not opposed to going to an In-N-Out burger when I'm in California. But at the same time, I'm not sitting home eating Twinkies or anything like that. But definitely pizza. Pizza's definitely, if you put a pizza in front of me, and there's a story from World's Toughest Mudder, the first Worlds, of a couple people running down the chute yelling about pizza. Well, that was myself and 2 other people. And
Nice.
Somebody had smuggled in a pizza for us. So at some god-awful point in the night, we're eating pizza.
Now, when you said, we, is there a specific reason why you moved out to Utah?
Yeah, I moved out to Utah. I had my boyfriend and I moved in together, and we live out here. And he's from here, and he's got a brother that you've already mentioned once. I actually met him at the death race. He was crewing for his brother, who happens to be Hobie, Call, and then we dated for a while across the cross country, and my job's a little more mobile, so I'm in Utah now.
Cool. Now,
got some great. I live at an elevation that was the top of Killington now, and I can, be up in 9,000 plus foot peaks to be training on in a matter of 10-15 minutes from my house.
Did it take you a while to get used to that altitude?
I think I'm still getting used to it somewhat. I'm pretty used to it now. But it's definitely changed. The trails are different out here. The terrain is different out here. It's a new place, but it's kind of neat to explore some new trails and new places.
So do you did you run into Hobie at Christmas and stuff like that because of the relationship?
Yeah, we see each other at a bunch of Thanksgiving. Yesterday. No, we do run into each other. He lives about 45 minutes from where we are here. So. Did you build
any wall or anything like that near your property or anything to work out?
Oh yeah, in our backyard. Maybe we'll have one when the spring hits again. But right now we don't have a wall. My wall actually went to that I had in Vermont went to Andy Weinberg, who runs the death race. His 10-year-old daughter I had ski coached.
Okay.
And so she is a 10-year-old girl is now in possession of my wall, 2 spears, and a target.
Oh wow. All right. So thanks for being on. Is there any other shout outs to fans or anybody else that you want to say thanks to that's helped you out in your journey?
Well, I have a fantastic set of sponsors, as Guest Bar Nutrition, as you already said. There's also CWX Conditioning and then 2 small companies that are both Vermont-based. That's Motion Mate, it's an energy tea, and Garuka Bars. And then, I really have to thank Ute CrossFit, who I train at all the time. I'm pretty much there. They let me go in when I want, and I train there, and so they've been great. Otherwise, thanks to everybody that continues to read the blog and go to the website and buy merchandise and and buy spear kits and whatnot. And it's been a great 2012, and we're looking forward to an even better 2013.
All right, that is awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on anytime. I'd love to come back again.
All right, we'll see you later.
Thanks.